Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Wingmen Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Kryptek. And I am personally super stoked to be partnered with Kryptek. Just a company whose ethos I just align with on so many levels. As a hunter, as a shooter, as a freedom-loving, patriotic American. The Kryptek is a veteran-owned company that was started by producing top-notch camouflage patterns that are Department of Defense approved, and man, it shows in the field. The camouflage patterns, I don't care whether we're talking Highlander or the Obscura patterns or any of the various patterns that they produce, Highlander being probably my favorite, but the Obscura transitional pattern coming in a very close second, depending on terrain, depending on what I'm looking at. Those patterns just disappear in the field, whether I'm hunting waterfowl in river bottoms or flooded timber or a marsh setting, or I'm hunting turkeys in, late spring where I need greens. There's so many options, and I did a little breakdown video / podcast on where I like what patterns when it comes to late season hunts or waterfowl hunts, even waterfowl hunts that are in more drab environments with not a lot of greens. It's mostly grays and browns and blacks. I'm going to grab that Highlander pattern almost every single time. But man, the new Skyfall pattern, which is designed for whitetail, works extremely well in our river bottoms out here hunting waterfowl in our late fall, early winter seasons. When it comes around to turkey time, which is the time of year that I'm looking at right now. Early in the season, we're still dealing with a lot of browns and drab colors. So I'm going to grab Highlander or I'm going to grab the Skyfall pattern. And as things green up, I'm going to reach for Obscura transitional. That Obscura transitional pattern, when you're dealing with any greens and darker, richer browns and tones in a color scheme, in an earlier season forest environment or marsh environment, man, it just disappears. That pattern is phenomenal and really breaks up the silhouette, the human silhouette at distance. I was hunting with Brandon Mason in Canada last fall on a combination waterfowl and black bear hunt, and he was wearing the Obscura transitional and I was wearing Highlander. And his Obscura transitional while we were hunting bears was the perfect pattern for being out there. The Highlander that I was wearing was probably a better choice for our waterfowl hides. But again, early season, I want some more greens. I'm going to pick Obscura transitional. Later in the season, I want more browns and grays and tans. I'm going to go with Highlander or even the Skyfall pattern. But some of the layers that these guys are making too, their clothing is just top notch. I really like the puffy layers. Man, the Air Ace down jacket, Air Ace down hoodie is one of my absolute favorite pieces that I've ever worn from those guys. And I got to test one years and years ago and was impressed with it. And now I get to wear it on my hunts and just love it for a wide range of activities. Another piece that I absolutely love is the Kronos fleece hoodie. That thing is, man, throw it on over just like a regular t-shirt if it's not too cold, or throw it on over a good heavy base layer like their Theos Merino base layer for colder temps, and it is awesome. I could go on and on about the layers. They make some killer pants, good vest system, great rain gear. I mean, everything that you need as a hunter, Kryptek has got you covered. And again, what really matters to me is that these guys are pro-Second Amendment, American patriots, they're veterans, and they get it. They get that just everything that we're looking at in the world today. They understand that, man, we all got to be on the same page, and I love being partnered with a team like that. They get the vision, they understand where we're headed and the things that we're trying to do, and I just couldn't be happier being partnered with Kryptek. So, hey, check them out on their website, kryptek.com. They've got a zillion great things out there. Or shoot me an email at editorial@eastmans.com, and I can help you line out top picks for your next coming hunt. Check them out. Let them know what you guys think. Check out our YouTube channel for gear reviews on different CrypTech pieces. And thanks for tuning in to this week's podcast. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Wingmen Podcast. And I've got as my guest today, Mr. Jake Perry.
Yes, sir.
Superior Upland LLC up in the UP. Jake, thank you for being patient with our technology, man. I don't know what's going on, but we finally, I think, got something that's going to work, and I'm excited to chat. So tell us about who you are, who's Jake Perry, and what is Superior Upland LLC?
So I'm originally from the Lower Peninsula, but my dad's family's all from the Upper Peninsula. Grew up coming up every year for deer camp since I was a little kid.
Troll.
Oh, I don't know if you'd call it a troll, but I living below the bridge, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, hey man, I was born in the Lower Peninsula too, so don't. But I got to the UP as fast as I could.
That's exactly what I ended up doing too. I wrestled in college, got done wrestling in college, and moved up here as quick as I could. Family, from the Felch area, we had a cabin in Channing, and from there I took and finished up my degree at Northern, and then got into bird dogs, got into guiding. Got into coaching. You know how it goes. I mean, you get a dog, then you get a girlfriend, then you get another dog, and that's how it goes, man. So
I hear you.
6 years now.
See if you can scoot down or move your screen up a little bit so I can see all of you.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're good, man. I'm just getting a cut off picture, and I don't. That's perfect.
Good.
That'll work. That'll work perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, man.
No, you're good. So you went to Northern. What did you get a degree in? Because I went to Northern too, so we're fellow alumni.
Yeah, so I got a degree in economics,
okay,
and right now I'm working on my master's in learning disabilities.
Okay.
So taking and doing that, it's a 2-year program. Doing it on the side on top of everything else I'm doing. But recently, as you just said, Superior Upland, you being from up here, you know that Black Duck used to be a great place for people to go and train their dogs or go just on an upland hunt. It was one of the only preserves in the Upper Peninsula. Me and my girlfriend just acquired that. So now I've taken and moved into, when I'm not working in the school systems, I'm training dogs and running people on upland hunts, and it's been fantastic so far.
That's cool. Yeah, Black Duck was because you and I lived in the same area. We were talking on the phone before we jumped on the podcast, actually, and we know a lot of the same places. In fact, I think I know exactly where you live, which is crazy because I haven't lived up there in all 25 years, close to that, so 20 years. It's been a long time since I left the UP for Wyoming, but Black Duck used to be, or still is, it was a shooting preserve that offered a full service of shooting opportunities from all kinds of different stuff, but the biggest thing that they offered was dog training.
Yeah, gun dog training is really, really what we pride ourselves on. Obviously, we do the preserve hunts, but right now I've got 21 dogs that I'm working with on a weekly basis right now.
Wow, so, you are a dude.
Yeah, it's 7 days a week right now. It's been a grind, but a lot of it's been young puppies. Intro to gun, intro to bird. It's been so cool to just see that switch flip, not only in the puppies, but in the owners themselves, realizing that, their dog just unlocked all this stuff. So just by the intro to gun, intro to bird, it's been so cool to watch, man.
That's awesome. So are you working with the owners? Are you taking dogs and training them, or are you training owners and dogs at the same time?
I'm doing both. So I really believe that especially with first-time bird dog owners, I really believe that you should be there when your dog's going through that stuff so you can understand. I coach, right? So I coach sports. It's the same thing as coaching. You have to get your clients used to a certain level of, training. You have to get them to understand what you're doing, why you're doing it. Otherwise, they're going to go out into the field and not be on the same page as you and what you're doing with that dog. So I try and encourage them to be there as much as possible, and that's because I try to make it as fun for the dog and the owner as possible. I stress bird contacts a lot, especially with young dogs. So I think being able to translate that and then them being able to be acquainted with that type of training and moving forward, I think it helps me out a lot. If that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. I've heard it said, I think most guys have probably heard it said that you can't make a bird dog without birds.
That's Walt Noah right there, man. That
Yeah.
was catchphrase for black duck for years, man.
Yep.
So,
I mean, yeah. So how long have you been up there right now?
so right now, almost 7 years currently. I took I like to call it a sabbatical. I got a chance to go downstate and coach Davison wrestling team, which is, if you're into, Michigan and the wrestling scene, the opportunity to go coach a program like that, I couldn't turn that down. So I went down. It would have been in the winter 2 years ago. I took a little sabbatical and went and coached, and we won a state title and stuff like that. But on and off for almost 7 years now, full time.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
And it's funny to talk to a fellow Michigander. I mean, it's because it's all my family's from downstate, and like I said, I went to Northern. I grew up in the UP. We know a lot of the same places. We were comparing notes before we started recording, and it's like, I know where you live. We're talking about the same places that we hunt, and it would be interesting for me to go back and see how a lot of that stuff's changed. Nothing stays the same, especially upland bird cover. But how is the habitat up there now?
So honestly, the Rough Grouse Society has been really big in habitat reconstruction up in the UP. We have a lot of areas now. I mean, we were talking about one area that's close by my house. Back when you were up here, phenomenal grouse habitat, and there's still birds down that way, but it's almost aging out now, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But the Rough Grouse Society and the Nature Conservancy have been so big on rehabilitating that habitat. I think right now we possess more habitat right now in the Upper Peninsula that's bird friendly, deer friendly. Whether it's woodcock or grouse, I think we possess more than we've had in years.
Wow, that's cool. Hey guys, today's episode of the Wingmen Podcast is brought to you by Savage. That's right, Savage Firearms. I personally am stoked to be partnering with Savage and shooting their new Renegade. I had the opportunity last year to put the Renegade through the paces on a Montana turkey hunt and perform flawlessly. Obviously, a turkey hunt is not a waterfowl hunt where I'm burning up lots and lots and lots of ammo, but I've had a chance to put that same Renegade through the paces shooting skeet, sporting clays, and trap this summer, and it has not failed me once. I specifically have not cleaned it. I want to see how much dirt, grit, grime, and punishment that Renegade can take before it malfunctions, and I haven't found the limit yet. I've been super impressed with the fit and feel of the Renegade. This thing's just tough. It's tough as nails, and if I'm looking for a waterfowl-specific shotgun, I'm looking for something that I can use as a canoe paddle if I need to, and the Renegade is going to do that and still go bang at the end of the day. There's been lots said over the years about shotguns, but for me, I need a gun that shoots where I point it, that goes bang every single time, and that throws good, even, consistent patterns. And the Renegade has all three. Plus, I can customize the fit with the stock, and that is huge. Because if you don't have a shotgun that fits you, you're probably not going to hit very much, and that's a problem. Shotgunning's an art, rifle shooting's a science. Savage has kind of blended the two with the Renegade and brought all kinds of crazy features to bear with the new Renegade. Go online, check it out at savage.com, but more importantly, get your hands on one. See how they feel. Check it out for yourself. I have been super impressed so far, and I'm looking forward to putting that Savage Renegade to work over the course of the next season. Yeah, it was interesting because there was a lot of that cover that I hunted when I was going to school up there and living and working up there. That was prime at that time. That spot in particular that's south of your house, that was prime at that time. But it was also on the verge of being within 5 to 10 years of being aged out.
Yep.
Where it needed some more. It needed to be cut again.
Yep.
It needed to be logged again.
Yep. And that's what they've been really big on. I mean, they've done such a good job with the GEMS units up here. I mean, normally those are areas that get overpressured, especially by the college kids, when they get a weekend off at looks like a party zone out there sometimes with the college kids, everybody wanting to go hunting out there. But they have done such a good job of managing those tracts of land and making sure that they're nice, accessible, and promote really good habitat for, any sort of upland hunter that's in the area.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's been awesome.
You guys, I heard rumors last year, and I was I didn't know if it was applicable to where you guys were, but how's your rough grouse numbers? Where are you at in the cycle right now?
So we barely had any rain during this hatching cycle. So right now, I mean, I've got yard grouse. So we've got 5 acres right off the side of a lake. I've got yard grouse. I've seen more clutches this year and chicks running around than I've ever seen. I think we're going to have, and I was talking to a couple of my clients, I think we're going to have a peak cycle this year.
That's awesome.
Just because of how dry it's been. As me and you both know, like if there's big rains that come in and they're a ground sitting bird and that's where they nest at, it can flood up, especially since the snow moves out so late that a lot of those nests and those chicks end up dying. But it's been so dry this year that I've seen more chicks than I've ever seen, man.
Yeah, and they get wetted down too. Those chicks don't have flight feathers to protect them, and they get wetted down, and then they get hypothermic and cold, and they die pretty fast from exposure. It's pretty interesting how that all works, but it's been interesting talking to a few guys back there. I was on a hunt this winter with the guys from Federal Premium, and we were talking. They're all out of Minnesota, and we were talking, and they, Jared Wickland in particular, was talking with Pheasants Forever, was talking about how good the grouse hunting was in northern Minnesota last year. Ridiculous numbers of birds.
I can't even tell you. We had bird camp. We call it Camp Toothpick. Me and all my buddies, we get together because we go, not the opening week, but that second week before October starts and everybody comes up here. We run our grouse camp, and we call it Camp Toothpick because your first shot's to clear brush and your second shot's to take and kill the bird. So
anybody that's hunted that country knows, man, it's tough. If you're waiting for clean, clear, wide open shots at grouse, you're not going to get them.
You're gonna take and not get a shot at all, man. And so we call it Camp Toothpick. And last year at Camp Toothpick, we had probably the best year I think we're gonna have for quite a while.
Wow.
It was. We had 15 dogs out there, 14 dogs out there, and it was just phenomenal, man. I mean, everybody shot over 5 birds over a week span. I mean, it was just one of those banner years where, we always try and take and make sure we bring 1 or 2 new hunters. And last year was kind of funny. I brought my cousin with me, and we walked into a cover that I knew hadn't been hunted that year. And it was the only time in my life I've had my shotgun barrel actually burn me when I touched it. I went to go put it back up over my shoulder like this, and my shotgun barrel burned because we walked into a cover, and we must have reloaded 3 times within 3 minutes.
Wow.
It was just, coming in, dog goes on point, giant covey goes up. Coming in, dog goes on point, giant covey. So we had gone into a spot where they hadn't actually dissipated yet, where they were still all together in family groups, and it was just insane. And my cousin goes, "Is this how it is all the time?" And I'm like, "No, man, we got 13 miles to walk tomorrow, but it's like his first experience with it was just an insane amount of stimuli all at once, man. It was crazy.
That's phenomenal. It's so fun when it's like that. Before I left up there, the rough grouse cycle was at an all-time high, and we had a couple of years kind of like what you're talking about, where everywhere you went there were grouse. Everybody had grouse in their bird feeders. It was just birds. There were grouse everywhere, and the woodcock were always steady, but it seems like woodcock were always the bird that kept us going. It was like you went on woodcock hunts where you got a shot at a grouse once in a while.
Yep.
There were years when the grouse numbers were really high where you just hunted grouse because woodcock were incidental.
Oh man, we call the woodcock, we call them timber doodles up here, and we call them Old Faithful, man, because if you go out during grouse season, when they overlap, when grouse and woodcock season overlap, I mean, they play really nice for young dogs. They play really nice for not really seasoned grouse hunters, man. So it's just, they're so awesome, and they're so hard to hit because they go straight up, and we call them kamikazes because they'll come right at you and dive at your face, and it's a blast trying to shoot woodcock, man.
Oh, they're so much fun. So much fun. You're bringing back a lot of memories, dude, just talking to you. That's super cool. But what kind of dogs are you running personally?
So personally, I have GSP that I got. Fun story on him. I got him on a tip on a hunt I guided. Got a pick of the litter puppy on a hunt I guided. And then I've got 2 field labs. And then so I take and I run those basically for my guiding outfit. And then what I take and do too on the side in the wintertime, because as you know, it snows up here all the time. I run snowshoes, which is kind of a dying art. So I got a beagle that I run snowshoes with. So it's so cool, man. Just hearing them sing and chase snowshoe rabbits through the woods.
Oh yeah, grew up doing that too.
Yeah. So I'm kind of,
cool.
you know, there's not a lot of us left up here, and every dog I got, and this is what I love about my dogs, every dog I've got, I've never bought. So either, you know, it was from a hunting home where it wasn't working out from them, or, you know, my first dog I ever got, I raised in my college dorm room. So that's my male field lab. So that's, you know, I raised him.
How did you pull that off? That's got to be a story.
So when I was wrestling in college, the school was taking and looking for, it was when, you know, coming out of high school, it was 2015, 2016. The college that I was at was looking for avenues to provide kids with emotional support.
What college?
This was at Tiffin University down in Ohio.
Okay.
So what ended up happening is I went through the process and said, hey, I have a puppy that I want to take and get approved to take and be an ESA animal. They were all about it. They were so cool with it. So I got them approved. And then when we weren't in class, we were going goose hunting. We were going duck hunting. So I had my puppy in my dorm room with me and was taking him out and going hunting with him. It was like the coolest thing ever, man.
Dude, that's a dream for a college guy, man.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome, man. And like, you know, and then so all your friends all the time wanted to hang out with the dog anyway. So he got super socialized. Like he's the most friendly dog ever. But then it was like we were packing up and we lived right in that section of Ohio where like you had the big cornfields. But if you go an hour south, I mean, you're the dove hunting, you know, we went pheasant hunting because there are pheasants by us. It was just awesome for him as a young dog to get out and experience all that. So
what a way to raise a dog, man.
Oh man, dude, I got stories.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. And then when I moved north, it was one of those things where when I met my girlfriend, she had a female field lab, which is, I mean, by far, I think she's my best hunting dog. I mean, I can take her and go do waterfowl. I can take her and go do upland. Like that dog is just wired to hunt, man. And so when I met my girlfriend, that's when I kind of knew, you know, like these are, you know, that when I met my girlfriend, she didn't have a problem with me getting more dogs. You know, that was when I knew I hit gold. So it's just kind of been a rolling process ever since there, man. But yeah, like going back and touching on what I run the field labs and I run the pointer, man. And I think it's a system that just works really well for the grouse woods up here.
Oh yeah, no, hands down. I always had, I had a lab that I raised that I got when I lived in Marquette up there, and put her on all kinds of stuff, just like what you're talking about. She was a great dog, and I had GSP for a while at that time period too. It was actually my dad's that got stuck with me, and I never had a chance to run them together. But I always wanted to run a pointing dog
and a flusher,
what it was, and then have a flusher and a fetcher at heel.
Yeah.
And my goodness, man, I've never gotten the chance to do that. All my labs have been dual purpose upland dogs and waterfowl dogs, and all my pointing dogs, I've only had that one that I actually had for a while there, but I never had a chance to hunt them together, and I would love to do that. That's kind of a dream.
Oh, it's a really special experience, especially, you know, when I'm out working on the preserve, you know, I just throw on the Garmin's on the dogs and let them go run around and have fun and stuff. And it'll be funny sometimes where I'll see bear on point on one of the preserve scratch birds. And I'll see Bella come on up and she'll flush the bird out in front of bear. And they just have a blast doing that. And then they'll come back and be like, hey, Dad, did you see what we did? And I'm like, that's so cool that you guys are doing that. But that's kind of the outfit that I run, like you kind of mentioned, is that like I'll bring a dog in, my dog will go on point, and then Bella will go in and flush that bird for me.
That's nice too, because in a lot of that cover, especially hunting grouse up there, a lot of that cover is so thick, and you can get some older guys that I always found that if I had somebody that didn't want to bust brush, and an older person like my dad, for example, I'd have them walk the road.
Oh yeah.
And you're in the brush with the dog, and the bird 9 times out of 10 is trying to fly out into the open. They fly across that road, and we're talking 2-track roads they're legal to shoot off of, you know what I mean? These are like logging road type things.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
not talking highways and county roads.
No, we're not talking like roads and stuff like that. Like normally what it is a 2-track that got logged
Yeah.
30 years ago, and you found it on Onyx and you're walking down it for the first, you might be the first person that's gone down it in 20 years. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But you could send that flushing dog into that cover, and that bird will head for that open 9 times out of 10.
Oh, and the thing that I always say about grouse that people don't realize is they run. So I think they run so much more. I mean, people say pheasants run, but if you get a really old bird that like knows what the game is, they'll try and they call it J hooking. They J hook you all the time. Where you send your dog in, your dog will go in and go on point, and you'll start to walk in around your dog, and they'll make a J hook and walk right behind you. And then, like you said, if you're coming from the road, they'll cross the road, go to the other side of the road, and then that's their escape route. I always call it J hooking, man. They are the kings of it, and that's why they're called the king of upland game. Dude, they're so crafty when you're taking to actually try and hunt them. You know, you get the guys that want to try and go road hunting and all that stuff, but like if you're getting out there with a dog, it's few and far between that you get a bird that's as crafty as them sometimes.
Yeah, no, I agree back there. It's interesting out here. You're gonna laugh at this. I've been on elk hunts, backcountry elk and mule deer hunts where I could actually catch rough grouse with my hands.
Oh my gosh.
They are not the same bird as they are back there. They don't get hunted at the levels that they do back there. And then you throw in the dusky grouse. They used to be called blue grouse out here. They're a little bit bigger than a rough grouse, but they eat very similarly. They're a very good eating bird, and they are naive is a kind word. They
just don't get the exposure. Hey,
they don't get the exposure. Now you put a dog on the ground and hunt them with dogs, and where it's open and they have to flush to get away, then they'll do it. But the hardest part of hunting them in the mountains, in the trees, is shooting them when they flush, is shooting them before they get on a limb. Because that's what they do. They fly up in a tree and then they sit there.
And they look at you and see what's going on.
Exactly. That's how they evade predators. And they just don't get the hunting pressure that the rough grouse in the Great Lakes and in the Northeast get. And so they're pretty naive. If you can catch them early in the season out in the sagebrush flats where they're eating grasshoppers and chasing insects, then they're sporty, because the dog will point them or flush them, and it's hundreds of yards for them to get to the trees, and they'll flush and get out of dodge then. But otherwise, hunting them in the woods like you do back there, oh man, they're naive, to say the least.
Oh man, I'll tell you what, where I'm at too, they're rockets through the woods, man. They just, when they get up and go, it sounds like a helicopter taking off.
Yeah.
It's unreal. When they get up and go and they decide to go, and I mean, they're flying through aspen branches. They don't care. They're little brick houses of just raw flight power punching through the woods, man. That's my favorite part. But it gets so thick. And that's the thing that I try and convey to my clients. I'm like, if you guys come up and go hunting here, it's so different than out west. I mean, like, if you're not bleeding, you're not grouse hunting. That's what I tell people all the time. If you're not crashing and crunching and out of breath and sweating, you're not grouse hunting, I can't believe that, though, that they're just like not to say naive, but they're just not that pressured out there. It's just
they're the upland bird hunting here is focused on pheasants, chuckers, and huns, and then sharptails where there's sharptails, prairie grouse there. But the mountain grouse guys will chase them on the opener for a couple of days, and then after that they're an opportunity bird. Guys. Kill them with a stick or kill them with a rock while they're hunting elk or deer.
Well, I have a lot of guys that go out there too that take and run the mountains. A lot of my buddies that live in that area, they run those mountains and they use the bird hunting as opportunities to scout for the big game.
Oh yeah,
so
you can do that. You can do that.
There's a lot of guys that go up and run and look to scout, man. I think it's so funny.
The bird hunters out here definitely make a lot of the bow hunters angry. Because those seasons overlap, and the bird and most of the time you're not in the same spots. But from what I've seen, the elk don't pay much attention to the bird hunters. They're kind of like, yeah, whatever. It's like they know. But dude, that's super interesting. So tell me about what your plans are for black duck and what you've got in the works for possible guiding. Because I went to your website, checked you out. And man, you've got some big stuff in the works. Well, give us the lowdown on that.
So right now the plans with black duck transitioning to superior upland is what we want to do is provide a safe space for people to come train their dogs year round up in the Upper Peninsula. I think that's something that's kind of missing, and it's become a little bit hazardous to try and run your dog now, with wildlife getting to the certain levels that it has.
You could just say wolves. It's okay.
I know, man.
You
I
can
didn't
just
want
say
to
wolves.
around that. Yeah, they're getting. I don't know how accurate the numbers are, if that makes sense, from being on the ground every day.
Hey, man, you're talking to somebody that lives in a place where there's only 600 grizzlies.
Yeah. So
yes,
it's one of those things where, it's the conflicts are becoming more and more often. So the thing that we want to do is provide a safe place for people to come train their young dogs, get their older dogs out and condition them throughout the year. And then what we want to take and do too is use it as a launching platform for preserving up in the Upper Peninsula for future generations. So with me having an education background, like tons of youth outreach, I want to do tons of youth education, at-risk kids. And then we're also going to be partnering and doing a lot of veteran stuff as well. So what we really, really, really want to take and become, like, I don't want to say like a destination, but I want to say that what we're trying to do is provide that space where people can take and count on for the future of bird hunting in the Upper Peninsula. So that's really what our mission statement is, what we want to turn into in the future. For guiding wise, I'm booking up right now for the fall. I only have a couple openings left, but I do semi-guided, which is where you go out with your own dog, but I'm there guiding you as well. Provide field lunch, the whole 9 yards, educate you on habitat, that sort of thing. The only thing I have is I have a phone jail that guys have to check in, because I know how easy it is to drop pins. So I make them take in. It's super funny. I got a little box I designed sitting in the front of my truck, and it says phone jail on it. And they look at me so weird when they get in the truck and I say, "Hey, phone in the phone jail," because I don't want people dropping pins.
I don't blame you at all.
So I take and do that, and then we go out to spots. And for me, I take and do fully guided. I do partially guided. But the biggest thing that what I want to do is take and make people understand that the resource that we have and educate them about that resource. Because there are a lot of guides out there. They're just like, come on, shoot them up. Let's go shoot a limit. I don't care if you're shooting them outside of the truck. I'm not that guy. If a bird doesn't go up, we don't shoot it. You know what I'm saying? If a bird's not on point, we're not shooting that bird. So I want to educate people, especially when people are coming up for a first time experience with Upper Peninsula. I want them to experience it the right way, understand what the resource is and why we have the resource we do, if that makes sense.
100%, man. I think a lot of people take it for granted.
Yep.
I think back on the quality of the upland bird hunting that I had there growing up as a kid. I grew up over by the Sioux on the eastern end, and we had ridiculously good bird hunting over there.
Yep.
It was right in my backyard. I mean, I could go out and shoot ducks and geese in the fields out south of the house. I could go and hunt grouse in the river bottom up behind my house any day that I wanted to. And it was all right at my fingertips. We had a camp over there, had unlimited bird hunting around there. It was phenomenal. And then going to college up there and living in the area that you're in, the bird hunting around there is so good, and people take it for granted. And honestly, I think they abuse it a little bit.
I do too, man. And this is kind of the thing too, is like breaking in as a guide. There have been a lot of guides up here that have abused that for a long time. So like, I think it kind of, for me personally, me moving into it, it's been a little bit difficult for me because I've had people that have been doing things the wrong way for a long time that are now getting challenged by a guide that is about doing things the right way. So kind of go status quo,
Oh, and you're young too.
Yeah.
So it's like, what does he know? But no, I mean, I remember, and I'm guilty of this too, back before, you get a rainy Saturday or a Sunday, you go pick up a couple pasties and go listen to the football game, listen to the Packers, and drive around and look for birds.
Brown town birds. That's what a lot of
guys. And everybody does that. Everybody did that. A lot of folks still do that. But if you want to get out and truly get the most out of what those birds have to offer, get a good dog, get them on the ground, get them in the cover, and let them point the bird or flush the bird and take those shots that you're given, and it changes it. And I've seen it. I've seen taking guys that have done nothing but shoot birds out the window of the truck.
Yep. Nothing
but ground pounding birds and putting them on a real hunt. And almost 9 times out of 10, they come back. Then they don't want to hunt birds out of the truck anymore. They want to get out.
And they go from getting 1 or 2, we call them limb sitters, right? Birds that sit up, we call them limb sitters. You might get 1 or 2 limb sitters doing that a year. But I took a buddy out last year that never had a dog his whole life. And but very experienced grouse hunter, knows the habitat, very, very educated guy on wildlife. But I took him out for his first experience hunting with a dog last year on grouse. He said they were lucky to get 1 to 2 grouse a year walking with his dad. Right? We put up, I think it was 16 flushes within an hour.
Wow.
He was just astounded, right? And he went and got a dog. He went, it changed him as a hunter, right? So just like what you said, getting out and working with that dog and not only increasing, like shaping your mindset on that, but increasing the amount of bird contacts you get, I think it allows you to understand and respect that resource a little bit better.
I think you just hit on something right there, and it's about respecting the resource. I think when you get into it at that level, you're buying the dog, you're out, you're buying a new Savage shotgun, you're buying federal ammunition, you're out buying new clothes, you're doing all these different things, you want to do it a certain way. You're becoming more than a hunter. You're transcending being a hunter, and you're becoming a steward of the resource.
Exactly.
You know what? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where it's more than just shooting a bird, taking it home and eating it. That bird means more. It has more value because it goes from being something you do in the fall and in October, listening to the Packers and eating pasties to, and I'm being stereotypical, but I'm talking about myself. I mean, I used to do that, dude.
That's what people do up here, man.
Yeah, exactly. And we can joke about it, but it's there's a reason that stereotypes exist. It's good, and I fit it. I've been there, been that guy. So, but when you go from that into taking it more seriously, it becomes just something that you do once in a while to becomes a passion, and it becomes a lifestyle. And pretty soon you're an upland bird hunter. That's who you are. And you're spending more money on equipment, whether it be shot shells, shotguns, clothing, dog training stuff, whatever. All those things are paying for habitat projects. They're paying so that Game and Fish, Department of Natural Resources can do projects, that the Ruffed Grouse Society can do projects. They can ban more woodcock. They can study this, study that, create new habitat. That Pittman-Robertson Act those Pittman-Robertson monies come from us spending money.
Yeah.
And it's huge.
It's insane. You know what I'm saying? Like the amount of revenue that's generated by hunters and anglers and it's insane, but it's something that, people kind of like we were talking about, take for granted, right? People take that stuff for granted. And I think, moving forward, with the gear and stuff like that too, the biggest thing that I try and stress, especially through my business model, is there are going to be people showing up with pump 870 shotguns. There are going to be people showing up, with a $30 Browning vest. You know what I'm saying?
Doesn't matter.
No, and that's the thing, right? I think that sometimes we lose sight of who we were in the beginning as bird hunters ourselves, learning, right? And sometimes having the nice things changes some people's mindsets. And I don't want to say that. You ever heard the term kennel blindness?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, sometimes as hunters, we develop kennel blindness, if that makes sense. Yep. We don't take and look at the next guy behind us in line and start to steer them towards that stuff, right? We almost take and we forget that journey that we ourselves went on. And that's the thing I try and stress the most, is that if I got a guy that's got a single shot 410 and got his first puppy, I'm going to try and educate him and teach him as much as I can and not make him feel weird or awkward. And I think that's like the big thing for hunters going forward, that we have to look at that next guy in line and try and help elevate them and not tear people down all the time,
Yeah, I completely agree with you, man. And we have to remember that we're on the same team.
Yeah.
And in today's world, things are becoming more and more divided. Anti-hunting is becoming so vociferous and so influential that if we're arguing amongst ourselves, we're split down the middle, and a house divided cannot stand.
No way, man.
But I completely agree with you. There's a lot of approaches to it. And I think one of the things that bird hunters get labeled as, they kind of get like fly fishermen, in the fact that both sports are very approachable, and both sports can be very fun on a fundamental level. But at their highest level, they also have a tendency to get snobbish and elitist.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, but when you're pounding through grouse and woodcock cover in the UP and you're bloody and scratched up and sweaty and trying not to lose your temper because you've picked your hat up off the ground for the 16th time that day, and you can't shoot at birds because your gun's tangled up in the brush, there's nothing elite about that. No. That's just blue-collar hard work and fun. And it's accessible for everybody, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man, talking about the gear in the Northwoods and stuff like that and pounding through stuff, I started using High Plains gear, man. Oh, my God. I've been going through the woods with that stuff. It's been awesome. It's been absolutely awesome, man.
He is a cool dude, man.
Oh, man. That dude is one of the coolest dudes I've ever met, man. He's just his gear. It's so much better than anything I've ever put on. And I'm walking through, I mean, I'm walking through blackberry briars. I'm walking through all that stuff. It looks brand new still.
Yep.
So talking about that, sorry, I got digressed, but
no, you're good. You're good. I love it when a guest can reference another guest that I've had on recently.
Yeah, man. I started using his Desert Hunter for dog training. You want to talk about just a great piece of equipment, man.
Cool.
I can stick birds right in the back of it and stick them out.
I'll pass that on to him because he was gonna love to hear that. And he's gonna be listening to this, I'm sure, and be like, dude, that's so cool. But that's a word of mouth testimonial right there. I love it. Yeah. I love it. That's awesome. So with Black Duck, you're training dogs, you're working dogs. What other services are you offering? What can people go to you for? I mean, I know you gave us a pretty lofty rundown of your business model and what you want to do, but what does that look like day to day?
So day to day, what it kind of consists of, I mean, like Walt used to say, you got to have birds. So I have birds in facilities down in Rapid River. We have the birds there. You can't run a preserve without birds. You can't train dogs without birds. And it is what it is. I mean, I know some people look down on preserves, but fundamentally, how are you going to train a dog you can't train a dog on wild birds?
It's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. You hit on something. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you hit on something that is a real obstacle in today's world up there that I didn't have as a kid. I didn't have wolves to contend with up there.
No,
I didn't have to worry about turning my dog loose in the woods and it not coming back because it got eaten.
Yep.
And so preserves are a good answer to that because they're a safe place in a controlled environment where you can take a young dog and put them into a guaranteed controllable environment, which is so vital for the growth of a dog.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I had a dog last week that I had coming up. Her owner was up in Marquette on business, so I drive to Marquette every day, pick her up, bring her back to the preserve and train her. And just in a week, she was pointing and holding birds to shot. She was 7-month-old GSP.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of it's genetics, but I mean, you can see it when a dog has it and doesn't. And I mean, showed her first, she had never seen a bird at the start of the week, you know what I'm saying? And for me being able to control that first bird interaction, making sure it was a positive interaction, and then control every bird she saw after that, I was able to take and give her behavior that will only take and help her improve in the future. She has like the best set of foundations because that contact was able to take and be cultivated the whole time.
Yep.
And that's what a preserve offers, like you said. I mean, I couldn't imagine, trying to take my dog out and work him on a rough grouse. You know how frustrating.
I did it, Jake. I'm telling you, man. And it was, I would go from. So here's the tale of two dogs. The dog that I raised up there in Marquette, his name was Josie, and I had Josie for 3 years, and she got hit by a car when I was fishing steelhead down in the Pure Marquette River. Long story short, but didn't have her long enough. In the short time I had her, that dog retrieved a pile of game and flushed a pile of game.
Yep.
She was an okay upland bird dog because of exactly what you just said. I never got her on enough birds because I couldn't. Our bird cycle was down at that time. Now, just south of your house, she retrieved her first bird on September 15th when she was this big.
Yeah.
The grouse was as big as she was.
Yep.
And it was a legitimate walking through the woods. She's bopping around next to me. I bird flushed. I shot it. I could see it, and I kind of lined her out, and she went over and picked it up and brought it to me.
That's so cool.
Total instinct, right?
Yeah.
And she fetched some woodcock that year. She did some other things that were pretty cool, but she really was a great waterfowl dog because I hunted a ton of geese and I shot a ton of ducks. And then I moved to the lower peninsula, and I had a lot more duck and goose hunting and very little upland bird hunting down where I lived. I was quite a ways south. So she was the dog she was for the type of birds that she got to experience. Fast forward to my old dog now, Mackinac, who's 11. I shot 60 rooster pheasants over Mackinac before he was a year old.
Holy cow.
The first year when I got him, I lived in a part of the state of Wyoming where there was a bird farm, a state-run bird farm, and they would release pheasants onto select pieces of state land.
Yep.
And you bought your pheasant stamp. I think it was $20, $20. You bought your pheasant stamp, and that helped fund the program along with those Pittman Robertson dollars. Helped fund the program, and they travel all over the state planting birds in different places, so people can have really accessible, good pheasant hunting right in their backyard.
Yeah,
I just so happened to live pretty close to one of the places that they planted, and I worked a 4.5-day week. Or no, I worked a 4-day week at that time when I was teaching in that school district. We didn't work Fridays. And I hunted pheasants with Mackinac every single Friday. So what kind of dog did he become over that first year? He was still to this day, he loves to hunt pheasants. That's his thing.
He's probably a machine on them.
And he is. He's incredible on pheasants, even at 11 years old. And that translates to grouse too.
Yeah.
He's a grouse hunting machine. Now, I moved to a different part of the state, didn't have a lot of pheasant hunting, but I had lots of duck and goose hunting again. And you got to be pretty good at that. So it's all about those birds and what types of hunting you're doing with your dogs. So it's a classic case in point that your preserve serves that purpose for those folks where they're getting their dog on birds, they're getting them reps, and they're safe in a controlled environment where you can just take care of it. And like you said, in a week's time, you've got a dog that went from being a puppy to
it's a pretty decent gun dog by the end of the week.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm able to do. And it only took me 8 bird contacts because by day 4 we were out hunting scratch birds. You know? So I taught her, from basics, like if you don't point that bird, I'm not going to shoot that bird.
Right.
So that's why I stress recall first over everything else, like with the e-collars. And we could go into a whole tandem rabbit hole on how that's really helped dogs. It's taking
you're talking e-collars.
Yeah, that's the first thing that we could go in a rabbit hole if we had to, but it's one of those things where I think it allows those dogs that are family dogs now to be hunting dogs as well. So what in the past, you just had guys like, if it was a hunting dog, it lived outside, that sort of thing. And that's changed so much in the last 20 years. So the e-collar, I think when I bring puppies in, first thing we stress is recall, right? And then once they've got that basis of recall, I don't shoot a bird over them until they do exactly what I want them to do. And I just let the birds teach them. But like you said, it's a totally controlled environment. And I think that's what helps those puppies out progress so much faster.
That's super cool. I love that. I love your mindset. Just talking to you, I could just tell you've got the right idea. You've got the right mindset for it. I went through a period with my labs where I was anti e-collar, man. Get those things away from me. I don't need that to train my dog. And I got Hondo 2 years ago, and that dog has an enormous motor.
Oh yeah.
And I could not effectively train him on the limited amount of time that I had being a family man and a working man. I went and got an e-collar and I used it very sparingly. I used it right off the bat to teach obedience, heel, sit, to reinforce some of that stuff. And pretty soon I was able to get him to send in on take him to the baseball diamond and send him and work casts with him, work P drills where I'm casting him and sending him on long stretches on a blind retrieve, and I can stop him at 300 yards away where I couldn't do that before. And I have control over that dog. And what it does is I'm not out there screaming at the top of my lungs, trying to get the dog to do what I want to do, getting frustrated.
Yep.
I can touch a button and he's like, oh, yep, I'm listening.
Yep.
I'm not frying his brains. I've not got the thing set on 10. I've got it just enough where it tickles him a little bit and it's a reminder. Oh, yeah, I'm supposed to listen for that whistle.
Yep.
And I can stop him, and then I can cast him where I need him to go. And then in turn, he becomes more successful as a retriever because I can direct him at distance. It's changed things for me. It really has.
It's just such a valuable form of communication. Like I said, it was able, once me and that puppy had that conversation piece, had that understanding of what it was after 2 days. I mean, she looked at me and was like, all right, like, I want to learn now. You know, it was just like something that once she understood, when that collar went on, it was just a beautiful thing to watch with the young dog, right?
Yep. I can take Hondo and throw single marks in the river, in a lake, whatever, no collar, and he's on autopilot, right?
Yep.
But whenever I'm trying to teach a new concept or work on a more complicated process, the collar goes on, because it's like you just said, the flip gets switched, switch gets flipped. Wow. And he goes, okay, it's time to work.
Yep.
I'm tuned in, Dad. I'm listening. And I don't know. I like I said, I went from being 100% anti e-collar to now very much used properly. They are an incredible tool.
Yeah, they're by and far, there's nothing that I think that has really helped transition, a dog to being a hunting dog as much as they have in the last 20 years. I think that's been a really big improvement on what the systems that we used to have, right? So
yeah, 100%. Well, let's talk gear a little bit, man, and then I'm going to let you go. But you're coming from a guide's perspective, coming from somebody that does this all the time. There's a lot of folks that cross that bridge or come up through Wisconsin that want to DIY hunt the UP.
Yeah.
Honestly, if they're coming for the first time, I would recommend getting a hold of you and going out on getting a guided hunt. Even those like, what did you call them? Semi-guided hunts. Those would be cool, man, because then you're just showing people spots and you're kind of walking them through the woods. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And the thing is too, is like a lot of people, like I said, not necessarily showing spots, because then you have people that accuse you of being a hot spotter and a hashtagger and all that stuff, right? It really educating them on what they're pursuing. And not only that, like keeping their dogs in covers that are going to keep their dogs safe.
Teaching them what to look for.
Exactly. And I mean, and I tell a lot of people up here too, is that like, you don't know the topography of the land. A lot of times our aspen cuts are on the edge of rivers, stuff like that. What live in rivers? Beavers. Beavers chew a lot of our aspen forests down, and they sit like 6-inch punchy stakes off the ground.
Yep.
So if you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't, not necessarily know what you're doing, but if you don't know how the region itself plays out and how the wildlife interaction with each other, you can put your dog in a really, really dangerous position really quick.
Yep.
So
if guys are coming up from downstate, or they're coming up from Chicago, and they're going to come up and they're going to DIY it.
Yep.
What kind of gear, or they're going to come up and hunt with you, what kind of gear are you telling them they need to bring?
I really recommend that they need to bring field armor vests. I really think that that's something that, especially with, all the sticks we have up here, all the deadfall, all that thickness, making sure your dog's protected is number one. I mean, they're my family members first among everything else. If I lost one of my dogs to a puncture wound, I would be absolutely devastated. Rule number two, or number two thing that I like to think is a modular system, or a modular vest that you can take in, the Uplander style or something like that, where you can take and customize it as much as you want, but not only for bird hunting, but to support your dog as well while you're in the field, whether it's a water bottle, a med kit, a carry system for your dog. Like, you have to be prepared in case something goes wrong, because it's not just you out there hunting, you know. And then I would probably say that the other thing that I take and tell all of my clients to be is, you got to be in shape to come hunting up here. It's not something where you can just show up and come crush brush. I mean, if you want to do that for one day, that's fine, but you're not going to be able to walk by the end of the week. So, training systems, it's no different than going out west on a hunt, or like when I went down to Texas, I trained nonstop to go down to Texas for when I did my Nilgai hunt. You have to make sure that your body and your mind and your gear are all synced up in order to be successful. So, making sure that you're physically fit, making sure your dog's protected, making sure you have a system to support you both is what I really recommend for my guys coming up here.
Interesting. I like that you didn't talk necessarily about, because what everybody wants to know is, what kind of gun do I need to bring? What kind of shells do I need to bring? That's probably one of the least important aspects of it.
No, dogs kill birds, man. That's what I always tell people. You got to be able to support your dog, because without the dog, you're not going to kill birds. You can put all the money you want into your shotgun and into your gear and stuff like that, and what shot I'm using and what chokes to use and stuff like that. But ultimately, it comes down to you and your dog working as a team, supporting each other, having the gear to support each other and keep each other healthy in the field, and that's what's going to produce results.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. I mean, obviously everybody's got their favorite shotgun, everybody's got their favorite loads, their favorite clothing, and that's part of it. But at the end of the day, that's one of the least important aspects that you can have, because if your dog isn't doing the job or can't do the job, you're going to be pretty limited. So I like that. I like that mindset, dude. I really do. And it has been a ton of fun visiting with you and talking with you. And if I get a chance, I will be recommending folks to head your way and check out what you've got. You can check you out on Instagram at Superior Upland on Instagram. Your website, Superior Upland LLC.com.
Yeah.
They can check you out there. You got all kinds of stuff in the works. I'm excited to see where you take all this, dude.
I'm really pumped up. It's one of those things where it's exciting. It's a little bit nervous, but it's one of those things where going forward in the future, I'm a guy that's 100%, and I'm just looking to provide people with quality times, safe places, and educate them on what's going on.
No,
yeah, man, I'm pumped.
Well, you live in a great area.
You got to come back, man.
It is so hard to get to leave the West in the fall. I've got, I think I have 4 big game tags just for Wyoming this fall.
Well, you got pretty successful then, hey?
Yeah, my draw was pretty good, but being a resident helps. So,
man,
and then all that stuff I had 3 little kids that like to be in the mountains in the fall, and we'll chase mountain grouse.
Yeah.
I got a 8-year-old that's looking to shoot her first bird, and so we'll get her out and shoot one off a limb somewhere.
A little limb sitter, hey.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I started doing. Is I started going down south in the spring. That's what I started doing for my big game hunting, because I can't take in. I'm so busy in the fall that I never get to enjoy it. So I went down to Texas. Like last year, I went down to Texas and I went Nilgai hunting down there, which I don't know how familiar you are with that. But I
see the skull sitting next to you.
It was one of the, I'm in the man cave right now. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done, man. And but that's how I've translated I could go into a whole thing on that. That was wild. We ended up renting a U-Haul, driving 36 hours back north.
That's cool.
It was wild, man. Well, because getting stopped by Border Patrol because we shot a bunch of pigs and stuff like that. It was wild, man. But
you got to do something. You got to do something. And it doesn't last very long up there.
No, I'll never get, you get that 1 week break for rifle hunting, but everybody's out in the woods, So it's one of those things where I get my big game hunting in the spring, but I'm telling you, man, you got to get back sometime or bring the kids on up and we'll get you out.
No, that would be super cool. I appreciate that. But I've already sent my dad your information for him to look over. Because like I said, he put his GSP down last winter, and I don't think he's going to get another dog. I think they're at that point in their life where it's kind of like, nah, I don't think they're going to end up with another one. So he's always looking for somebody that's fairly close to come and hunt birds with. So I gave him your intel, so I would imagine you'll be hearing from him. But
that sounds great, my man.
Cool, man. I appreciate you, Jake. Hey, if one last question, if you could only hunt one bird one way, what's it going to be?
Oh man, if I could only hunt one bird one way, I'd have to say, and this is what I'm trying to complete this year. Okay, I'm trying to complete the Uber Grand Slam this year. That's what I'm going to try and complete. Which, for people who don't know what that is, it's a sharptail, it's a roughie, it's a woodcock, and it's a pheasant. And talking on what you said, I didn't want to interrupt you on what was going on. They've started in Menominee. They've started doing the same thing of a state-sponsored release system. So what I want to try and do is hit the Uber Grand Slam this year, and I want to hit it with my 3-year-old pointer. That's what I want to do this year. So I've been putting a lot of time into scouting Sharpie habitat on the east end, and it's 2 hours one way, but that is something that if I could do anything one way, it's getting the Grand Slam this year. That's what I want.
Go early to hunt sharptail. They get harder the later the season goes. Growing up on that end of the UP, we hunted sharptail exclusively for the first 2 weeks of bird season.
Yep, and then they get too pressured.
Yep. Well, when the woods are thick and green and you can't see anything, go hunt sharptail.
Yep.
They're a ton of fun, man. Good luck with that. I heard the numbers are up again.
Oh man, I think, like I said, and I don't mean to keep harping on the habitat improvement, but they have really, really, really made a conscientious effort to preserve what the Upper Peninsula is. I mean, there's cutting going on, there's habitat restoration projects going on. It's super cool. And then all of the programs or nonprofits are partnered up with actual foresters now up here. So they're partnered up with foresters that are cultivating the land, making sure that habitat's there. So I think that has a large part to do why our bird numbers are getting where they're getting to.
I love it. That's really encouraging to hear. Really encouraging to hear. Now you see to get those.
We're having a buy right now.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, Jake, I thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'm going to let you go, brother. Have a good one.
Thanks for being patient with me today, man.
Oh, me too.
Have a great day.